Independent horror films can be hit or miss. Smaller budgets can either yield deftly executed hits like It Follows, or whatever this is. But a lot can be done with a little if you have skilled artists there to help bring it to life. I'm Harry Marks, and I'm inviting you to follow me as we take a look at 2024's The Occult, directed by Peter Hyoguchi. So come on, let's all go to the lobby. The Occult is the kind of indie horror film I hope to see from other filmmakers. It doesn't fall into the trap of similar films by trying to be too clever or relying on an inexperienced cast and crew to pull off the impossible. Hyoguchi has assembled a truly underrated group of individuals to facilitate his vision, and the results speak for themselves. The film tells the story of YouTuber JT, who runs a popular online prank channel. When we first meet JT and his team, they're preying on unsuspecting couples by offering free tarot card readings. Unfortunately, those readings have a hidden cost, an unwitting victim's dignity, and, potentially, his relationship. It's a chuckle-worthy moment that's quickly upended when Zoe enters the fray. Zoe is a free spirit and something of a psychic, who figures out the prankster's game quickly. She also has a knack for predicting the future. The character veers a little too close to manic pixie dream girl status for my liking, but there's depth and pathos in Kelly Walker's performance that elevates it above Eternal Sunshine and Garden State territory. Zoe has a darker side, which she doesn't quite reveal until after the pair become an item. Because the church she invites JT to attend with her isn't exactly family-friendly. It's the temple of a bloodthirsty satanic cult, and JT and his friends may just be their next victims. I'd argue calling this a horror film is something of a misnomer, because the horror doesn't really happen until the last act of the film, and even then there's hardly any gore, nor are there really any jump scares or standard horror movie tropes. This is a psychological thriller with horror elements, and it should wear that designation proudly, because The Occult is one big homage to some of the best psychological thrillers ever made. Our introduction to the pranksters is shot voyeuristically. We can hear the people on the street talking while JT and his team watch their plan unfold from a distance. These are unsuspecting victims being spied on from afar, and it's pulled right out of 1974's The Conversation. In another sequence, Zoe is giving JT a reading with her tarot cards on Halloween night. Outside, red and green lights flash on and off, casting the room in an eerie, Christmas-like glow. But more than that, they evoke Hitchcock's ghostly color palette from his 1958 masterpiece, Vertigo. These colors are more than simple aesthetic choices. Here they symbolize concepts of deception, guilt, and fate, just as they did 70 years ago. Hyoguchi and his cinematographer, Connor Heck, are clearly fans and students of the thrillers that built the genre. From an askance street scene reminiscent of 1939's The Third Man, to a not-so-subtle homage to Ghostbusters, The Occult pays tribute to classic cinema in a way that doesn't feel out of place or forced. Almost every shot fits perfectly within this narrative frame. And speaking of color, it is refreshing to see a recent horror or thriller that doesn't pour paint thinner over its color palette. The Occult is lush and rich in blues and greens, and I've never seen Los Angeles portrayed with such life and vibrancy before. I'd love to see this film start a trend of films embracing color again. The actors are also equally as vibrant. Ryan Garcia, who plays JT, has a natural air about him. He's almost instantly likable, and his performance feels effortless, especially during certain romantic, flirty scenes with his female co-stars. Kelly Walker, meanwhile, keeps the audience guessing until the very end. She vacillates between personalities and demeanors in a way that isn't as drastic as, say, Lily Rose Depp's performance in last year's Nosferatu, but still demonstrates her skill as something of an emotional chameleon. I found it hard to know exactly which version of Zoe we were getting in any one scene, which only continued to ramp up the tension. It was also a hoot to see Tom Holland on screen again, and no, not that Tom Holland. Not often known for his acting work, Holland is perhaps best remembered as a screenwriter, penning such horror classics as Fright Night, Thinner, and Child's Play. He's delightfully wicked here, and I only wish we'd gotten to see more of him. As I mentioned before, The Occult is a film about a group of satanic cult members, and they partake in some pretty unsettling rituals. The problem is we don't really see that until more than halfway into the film. In fact, the first half of the movie lacks, in my opinion, much of the fright and tension we need to set up the rest of the story. There are fleeting moments of unease and questioning, but for the most part, the beginning of the film feels more like a romantic comedy than a thriller. It isn't until JT realizes there's something wrong with Zoe that we are suddenly shifted into high gear and the narrative takes off. Those moments I mentioned, however, are accented and amplified by the film's impressive score, composed by Christopher James Thomas. Thomas's music seems best described here as orchestral electronic, where brief blasts of horns give way suddenly to a pulsing synth chord. The effect is disorienting in certain scenes and goes a long way in placing the audience in JT's confused mindset. The music, along with the film's sound design, weave together smoothly without feeling heavy-handed. And I'll also add that this film should be watched either in a theater with great surround sound or while wearing a pair of really good headphones. The Occult is a film about hope, struggle, and the future, and my hope is that we'll see a much brighter and more colorful future in cinema thanks to Peter Hyoguchi. I'm giving The Occult 4 out of 5 stars. It's currently touring with the director as part of a nationwide roadshow. You can learn more about where to catch a showing at theoccultmovie.com. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time in the lobby.